Clock is ticking. Well, actually, a lot of clocks are ticking. But if you're keeping track of the West Bonner County School District, this is the story for you. The Board of Trustees is yet to have a meeting this month in September, as required by law, partially due to a temporary restraining order stopping the board from meeting earlier this month to remove two recalled trustees, but also to do the school board failing to have a quorum on Wednesday. Only two of the three remaining trustees showed up, which is a good reason to bring in our Andrew Bartline right now, who talked to one of those trustees that Wednesday had a lot of high interest on their meeting, but what happened there?
Yeah, well, those agenda items specifically drew a lot of interest leading into it, specifically relating to their superintendent, Brandon Durst. The school board hired Durst in June, even though the State Board of Education says he is not qualified for that position. The school board was supposed to address that in the meeting, but trustee Troy Rybold, a supporter of Durst, failed to show up. And as long as he does, the board cannot move forward, but legally they have to. But they can't. They don't have quorum. The school board has 90 days to fill those two vacant school board seats after the recall election. They do get an additional 30-day grace period until the county commissioners would step in for them. But first, they must declare the seats empty in a formal meeting. And if they can't get quorum to legally hold that meeting, well, we asked the Idaho State Board of Education, how does that work? Well, they directed us to the Idaho School Boards Association, who isn't contracted to work with West Bonner, but they are well aware of what's been happening up north.
I think we're in a unique situation in West Bonner County where you're right that unless they're able to declare a quorum and be able to, actually declare the vacancy, it's certainly going to put a slight delay on their ability to ensure that those constituents are represented by a member of that zone.
Have you seen that happen before it get to that 120-day mark where the county takes over themselves and says, we'll solve this?
It's really rare, I will say that. And honestly, it's something I advise heavily against because it's somewhat abdicating their responsibility to another elected body. And I think it's really important that the school board be able to fulfill that role, but it has happened. It is super rare.
So when does the clock start for that 90-day or 120-day countdown? Perry also says that's unclear. State code for a recall election says the clock starts when the county certifies those election results. In this case, that would be September 7th. But other state law says the board must declare the vacancy, which some interpret to be when the clock starts. Superintendent Durst prides himself on saving money, so he asked Perry for some free advice. She says, get to work now. At least West Bonner trustees, one of them, I should say, told us that's exactly what she's trying to do.
What is this doing to our potential, from a legal standpoint, from a financial standpoint, from a risk assessment standpoint? What does this do by keeping us constantly in this limbo? And I don't think it's doing us any good.
And so
But that school board meeting didn't happen.
But that is why we had to cancel it.
What happened there?
I was not aware that a trustee Reinbold was not going to attend until the morning. I did not want to go back and forth and cancel. I did reach out to him a couple of times during the day to try to encourage him to attend. We did not have a quorum, and so we did have to cancel that meeting.
Is Brandon Durst currently the superintendent at the West Bonner County School District?
He continues to fill that position, yes.
When I looked through the agenda, there was a piece there about dismissing an officer based on credentials. Was the plan to address his position with the district through that agenda item?
It was an opportunity to have that conversation, to look at it. It's broadly, it looks at evaluation, dismissal, resignation. I mean, it looks at, there's a whole bunch of things that were there within that component. It was left open for the Board of Trustees to talk about it. And realistically, we could have taken no action.
Do you have any concerns moving forward about an inability to meet quorum, consecutive meetings into the future, and maybe not meeting duties that you're obligated to meet?
I would hope that, again, we can have a quorum. We're noticed a meeting for Wednesday, this coming Wednesday. I'm hoping that we'll end up agreeing to do is move the executive sessions to the end so we can move through more the business component of the agenda first.
Yeah, and I understand one of those items being teacher contracts. Are teachers working right now without contracts, and that's something you guys need to sort out?
We are in the middle of negotiations and finalizing the negotiated agreement and the contracts, because normally they can be rolled over very simply. But because we are going we went from 5-day to 4-day, there's some issues there. But I think we've got to keep functioning as a district. And there are 3 members on the board. The county commissioners function with 3 members. So it's not undoable.
The West Bonner County School District posted their agenda for next week. That would be set for Wednesday. The agenda is the exact same as that previously canceled meeting. And the same goes as before, Joe. All 3 trustees need to be in attendance to meet quorum so they can sort out their regular business, the future of the district with Superintendent Durst, if he's that guy going forward, what decision they may or may not make. And then, of course, those 2 trustee seats to fill as well. And they have to have a meeting this month, also in accordance with state law. So again, clock's ticking, they got work to do.
Is there any answer as to what happens if the end of the month comes, it's October 1st, and there wasn't a meeting?
I'm not exactly positive how that works. What kind of, what would you call it? Mechanism would be put in place. I know that the state could hypothetically restrict funding, but I understand that Durst not being qualified for his job, they're already doing something like that. So I don't know what more they could do, but I'm certain there's something in place, which we certainly will learn about if we get to that point.
And I also know that a part of this, and a major takeaway for me, is there's a lot of unknowns. And that's probably part of the frustration up locally, up at West Bonner, up at Priest Lake, because they just don't know until it happens.
Yeah, and it seems frustrating for sure when we talk with Margie on the school board up there. She doesn't even have kids in the district.
Yeah.
She's like, I don't exactly have skin in the game personally. This is just something I care about. I think she's been on the board for half a decade or so at this point, maybe a little bit longer.
2015, I think.
2015. And so she didn't want to be in a situation like this. I don't think a lot of people like controversy, right? Nobody looks for it, but they're in a tough spot. They're looking for answers, trying to find answers, but so far we don't have very many with a lot of questions on the table.
All right, well, we'll continue to follow this. Andrew Bartline reporting. Thank you, Andrew.